You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Sarah from Adventure Pup Wellness. Adventure Pup Wellness is a Denver-based dog hiking service. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Polly. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about Adventure Pup Wellness.
Yeah. So Adventure Pup Wellness, it's a door-to-door dog hiking service. We come to your house, pick up your pup, head out for an epic hike, and then get them freshened up and dropped back off. And they are happy, tired, and clean. And without sharing too much about our secret sauce, it's not just a dog hiking service. It's also coupled with an experience for the dog and the owner as well.
And how did you decide to start Adventure Pup Wellness?
So the longer story made shorter. My previous career was in TV development. I worked on one project that didn't go through, but it was called Instagranimals, and we worked with Instagram famous pet owners. And that was one of my favorite projects that I worked in TV. I got to work with a lot of really great dog owners. Kelly Lund, who's in Denver and has his wolf pup Loki, who's super big on Instagram. And that was my first foray into seeing how people can make a really amazing and vivid life working with animals. Cut to me getting out of TV, moving back home to Denver, and wanted to do something real, something simple, something people really understood. These things that I didn't really have in my previous career. Was living with a friend at the time who had an amazing golden retriever named Raja. Was able to take care of Raja for extended periods of time when my buddy would be out of town. And that's when my interest for how do I make Raja's life as amazing as possible? What's the proper amount of exercise to keep her healthy and fit as a 5-year-old golden retriever? And if you love animals and if you're good at working with them, you just want to be the best you can be. And so figuring out what that looks like, all roads for me pointed to hiking and getting them outdoors and out of the landlocked cement city of Denver and just getting them outside in nature. So it really just started with one dog and was able to experiment with hiking trails and terrain and the seasons. And the best advice that somebody gave me in the beginning is, it's like, how do you start your business? What did it look like for you? And it's like, just do it. Just go out there and just start. So I was able to start it with Raja, and she's just the best dog and the reason why I now own Goldens. And so that was kind of the beginning of it.
And so what areas do you service in the Colorado area?
Sure. So our hike days are broken into territories. So our territories range anywhere from Sunnyside, downtown, Rhino as kind of like the north side of where we'll go. We don't service too far east. Unfortunately, we can't go out to Aurora. It's just too much drive time, and it's not fair for the dogs to be in the car for that long. Pushing down south to, like, we've got some central dogs, and then we go as far south to Littleton, Greenwood Village, and some areas a little bit further south. So we like to be as helpful to as many people as we can, and that's the way we're doing it.
And so when you have the dogs with you, where do you go hiking?
Yeah, so it depends on the season. It's really important to me to keep the dogs safe in the summer months. Denver can get scorching hot in the summer. And I now call it heat season because it starts as early as, March, April. And then we were having a high 90-degree days last October. So in the summertime, we'll take a little bit longer of a day and we'll go further west into the mountains where it's cooler. So we'll go up into Evergreen, Golden Gate Canyon State Park sometimes. But then on our more traditional days, we'll keep it to Golden, down in like Deer Creek Canyon for some of our Southside guys. And it depends on the territory for that day where we'll hike them. But our goal is to make sure that the emphasis for the dogs is always going to be on having a killer hike and not just being cooped up in a car for a long time. So we try to be real mindful of that.
Yeah. And also I live in Golden, and around this area, they have rattlesnakes. So I'm sure you have to be careful about, the different mountains that have rattlesnakes.
Oh, absolutely. And there's months that like, okay, we're not doing North Table. We're not doing
Green
Mount Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Green Mountain. Oh God. Yeah. And those, it's like, there's not one single tree on Green Mountain. So, there's certain trails that, like, Green Mountain is, we hiked that yesterday and we had 5 pups out there and they are having a blast. And, it was just before it was starting to snow and mountain bikers are not really on the trails. So we really had the hill to ourselves yesterday, and it's perfect for that. But, you'd be pretty crazy to try to hike some dogs in like August summer heat out there. It's just, that's not the right place to go. So, but that's kind of the fun part of it. It's the variation, and we're still lean at this point where we can, get all the dogs into the vehicle, and then we can say, okay, like, where do we feel like going today? Like, who do we have with us? Oh, okay, Sophia, she's a 15-pound Shiba Inu. She loves the snow. Let's go try to find some more snowy places. Or, we've got Happy, a 160-pound yellow English lab. And, Happy's a big guy. And so we got to pack our punch for Happy so he doesn't get too tired too quickly. So maybe something a little less steep. But it's just really fun. Like, that's the value of knowing your clients really well, knowing what they like. And I'm talking about dogs, not the people.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it's like
that's
kind of
a little slice of heaven.
Yeah. And you can kind of know like where they'll thrive, what they like. And there's a couple trails that, have creeks and go over bridges, and there's like little cliff sides for them to look out and see cool things. So, there's really great, 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 trail options that are always fun, I think, to go to depending on the season. But yeah, that's the great thing about living in Denver, being in Colorado, is there's a lot of hike options. But that being said, after the pandemic, there's so many more people out there, and that really changes our day too. So it's all about kind of positioning your day to avoid touristy people and make sure the dogs have the best day possible.
Yeah. And so when do you, in the summer, that is a good question. When do you pick up the dogs? I mean, really, you have to be off the mountain, I would imagine, by like 10.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've learned that obviously the later on in the day you go, the hotter it is in the car. And, I remember my first summer doing this, I had a guy who, he texted me and he was like, hey, the temps in Denver, it's like 102. Like, are you sure about this? I'm really nervous. And so after that conversation, I was like, okay, we gotta push everything forward just so even when the dogs are in the city for drop off, like the owner isn't concerned. So that changed our start times for sure. But yeah, earlier is better in every way for every season.
So Sarah, how do listeners find out more about your service?
They can go to our website. It's adventurepupwellness.com. We've got a bunch of information there, as well as our Instagram account. Our handle is Adventure Pup Wellness. There's fun dog photos there. They can check out, see who else is on the pack that day, and get a feel for what the service is all about.
Great. Anything else you want to tell the listeners?
One of the greatest rewards that owners can give their dog is varied exercise outdoors and giving them a really solid experience of adventure. And I think the most gratifying thing about working with Adventure Pup is I like that I get to help people, but I love that I get to make people happy. And being able to take care of somebody's favorite thing is my thing. And seeing good dogs become even better dogs by getting them outside, getting them hiked so that they have a great day is the most rewarding part of it all.
Great. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you so much, Polly. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.